what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about the best selling cards under $5 or less. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Penny Stock Market Watch. These look the same. Herald of the Abyss. We talked about this card a little bit last week. This is crazy that there's a near mint unlimited for $1. This person might not know that the card went up in value. And that will happen from time to time when a card gets bought out or shoots up in value, that there will be sellers who were unaware. And you'll be able to sneak in and take it. So just because, like, for that, like, that is a good example of, like, someone you would say maybe not to buy from. Only 50 sales, 100% feedback. Not really the greatest. But overall, I don't think it's super terrible. So it's just something to keep in mind. There are, like, TCG Player is a really, great place for very, very small sellers to make a little amount of cash on the side, right? So obviously do your due diligence and be wary of buying people who don't have that verified check mark. But overall, I don't think that would have been a terrible buy, like that specific one. I don't love Herald of the Abyss as a buy, but if you're able to get it for $1, then it's probably pretty good because you probably flip it for $2. Branded opening is interesting. We've talked about the branded stuff on what feels like multiple occasions. And the reason for that is that this deck's fluctuations have been insane. Pre-tier 0 tier elements, branded was the best deck, if not the second best deck. Top 5 for sure. During tier element format, this deck was relatively budget, and coming out of it, especially because it just interacts with the graveyard so much. Ishizu tier elements has obviously the shufflers, as well as the Bestial stuff was more popular. So there were a lot of reasons why branded fell out of the format, and now we're seeing it do really well. Is it still a decent buy? I would still wait on the Megatins to see if we get anything. I mean, this is literally from the 2022 Megatins, but we could still see some more branded cards come from the Megatins. But it is a very interesting deck to pick up. That's really all I have to say about that. We talked about branded a lot. I don't want to dive too deep into it now. And it's interesting, the hand traps, just in general are coming back. This used to be this page, if you remember, I think it was like before tier element format, maybe even during, but definitely before, where this page was just like full of like 2 different or 3 different gammas, a couple different ash blossoms, effect veilers, Droll and Lockbirds. There's probably another Droll and Lockbird around here somewhere. And when we're looking at it, this is a good time to buy hand traps, but the main reason people are buying hand traps now is because you do have decks like Pearly and especially Super Heavy Samurai. But honestly, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh decks are just like this, where you don't have to play a lot of combo pieces for the deck to still do a full combo. Super Heavy Samurai, I think is a 1-card combo if you open the Soul Piercer, and you can end on like the Therion King and maybe like Baron. I don't really fully know the combos like that for Super Heavy Samurais. I've really just seen more of the deck play, not really know the combos, because I understand the deck relatively well. Like I know basic Super Heavy Samurai combos, but I don't know what one Soul Piercer ends on like exactly. You guys can let me know in the comment section down below if you guys know, but usually a good opening hand for Super Heavy Samurais is like Soul Piercer, another Super Heavy Samurai, and 3 hand traps. So hand traps now is a good time to sell if you have access, or if you have, because the Ash Blossom was from Beware of the Trap Tricks. This was from Legend of the Crystal Beasts. So there were a lot of hand traps that have been reprinted recently. D-Shifter, not as much. Like, there are some hand traps that aren't right? But definitely like the Ash Blossom, the Effect Veilers, Ghost Ogres, Nibiru, Drolls, Gammas, the usual stuff. But we have 3 new cards here. So let's take a look at this. Is this still just Firewall Dragon? No, this is not. I think so. It's got 5. I haven't read this card, which is wild because it's from Maze of Memories. But negate any monster effects activated during your opponent's battle phase. You can send a Cybers monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card gains the attribute and 2,500 attack, so it goes to 55. This card can attack the number of times up to the number of attributes it has. Weird. Did something happen? Is this just another like random OCG thing? Because this isn't good. Like if you were able to activate its effect multiple times, I could see it being good. And I will say, we might be entering a format where spell and trap effects aren't as popular, so maybe that's why. I don't know. This seems like a terrible card. I mean, like, okay, you can't really call something that has the potential to be 5,500 attack, but actually more, because I don't believe it says to the end phase. Yeah, so it actually can get bigger. So this can actually get pretty big. It has to see the field first. Like the summon has to resolve. It has to be able to attack. Because that's all it really does. I guess it can negate monster effects during the battle phase. There's just so much stuff this card loses to. Like, it loses to a Blackout. It loses to a Rage. It loses to an Access Code Talker that's summoned after it has been summoned. It loses to a Smashers. It loses to whichever runic card just gets rid of like, there's so many cards that get rid of this card. I don't know why it went up in value. There might be something I'm just missing. You guys can go ahead and let me know. I think that's a terrible buy. I wouldn't buy it. I would sell it if I had it. But I don't have it because I didn't know the card even existed until now. But this card I've actually heard a lot. I haven't read it in a while, though. Let me read the monster effect first. You can reveal this card, add a Pendulum monster. That's really good, actually. Or a card from your Pendulum zone to its owner's extra deck face-up extra deck, and special summon this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. If another monster's is normal special summon while you control this card, send that monster to the graveyard during the end phase of this turn. You control. Okay, so I think it's on your side, obviously. 2,500 attack. A free 2,500 attack summon is really, really good. Obviously, you need a monster in the Pendulum Zone to bring it out. Its scale is 0, which is actually quite insane. Its level is 8, but the main reason why this card is pretty good is actually its Pendulum effect. While it's in the Pendulum scale, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Now, this actually brings up an interesting point. If you guys are unaware, Pendulum monsters, when they're destroyed, even if they're a Pendulum in the Pendulum scale, they check the graveyard first and then go to the banish zone. So if they're under like D-Shifter, D-Fissure, or Macrocosmos, or this card, they would get banished. And it's just an interesting thing. It's not searchable, to my knowledge, by anything. I mean, there's something that searches it, obviously, because there's, I think, like Dogu or something like that searches everything. There's a card that searches every card in the game. It's really hard to get off, but it does. But it is a Cybers. I guess Small World as well, because it is a Cybers with a really weird stat line. So it's probably easily accessible off a Small World, which is interesting to think about, that you could get a Macrocosmos or a D-Shifter that's searchable off of Small World. And D-Shifter is obviously also searchable off of Small World, but D-Shifter is a lot more circumstantial. So I do really like this card. I know MCole40 was talking about this card at nauseum for a very long time, and I guess I should have listened. I did just sneak under $5. If you're able to get this card for like $350, I would pull the trigger. But I would just wait too. There's obviously something that caused this hype. Could be people finally realize how good it is. But it also could just be the meta we might be walking into. So when the meta cools off and people are like, well, this isn't as good of a card as I thought, because it is a bit circumstantial. But it's not terrible, right? Next is Alert, Rescue Ace card. We've talked about Rescue Ace before. Rescue Ace's boss monster is really cool. Being able to occur free advantage, but a big problem with this deck is advantage is really awesome unless you can't do anything with it. You know, and there are cards like Zeus, Exciton Knight. There are some cards that encourage you to not have the card advantage, right? And so card advantage is all fine and dandy, but it just really doesn't do a lot when it's not combined with anything. Now, I know there was some new Rescue Ace stuff that was announced. I haven't really taken a look at that stuff yet because I've seen this game too many times to like I've seen it too many times where, you know, an archetype will come out and it's got a lot of potential and then just kind of falls by the wayside. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. Usually if a deck is going to be good, it's good in its first wave of support. And that's the unfortunate truth about the matter, is that you'd like to think that a deck could get better over time. You know, Pearly and Super Heavy Samurai are actually both really good examples of decks that randomly have gotten good. But we'll see. Like, it's all very speculative. I'd assume once that those cards come out, which I think is this week, we're going to see them topping. We're going to see them in different spots. So there are definitely examples of decks that get better over time. I just don't think Rescue Ace is one of them. But there it is again. There's another rescue card. If you have the rescue stuff, I would sell it off right now. If you wanted to play it, play it. But if you have the rescue stuff and you've been waiting for it to get good and that's what you're saving it for, that's fine. I would just say that I don't think this stuff's going to be very good. And I know I just said, well, I haven't even looked at this stuff, so how would I know? But there can only be so many decks that are good. You know, Pearly's just got some support. We don't know when the next ban list coming. I know I just did the whole thing on the ban list, but we don't know when the next ban list is coming up. Branded is still very good. Runic is still very good. Kashtira is still very good. Odds are not everything is going to get hit and completely neutered. And listen, if you're not trying to play it for fun, if you're not trying to play it to win, you're trying to play it for fun, then pick up the stuff. But you should have already picked it up then at that point. But we can do this actually real quick, because most boxes have like one chase archetype, one decent, if not a little bit better archetype, and then one or two archetypes that are just bad. But with Rescue Ace getting a little bit better, this is actually becoming an interesting booster box. If we switch to here, we go price high to low. The Pearly stuff, obviously, a bunch of collector's rare. If this deck ends up being really, really good, especially this, the collector's rare could be huge. This is a great collector's rare. This is a great collector's rare. This is a great collector's rare on top of all of that. The Minkanko stuff is in here. There's some Rescue Ace stuff in here. Card Trooper collector's rare is really cool because there are a lot of people who play Edison format. I believe that's where Machine Dupe or Troop Dupe Scoop, was that I don't know. Where that deck though was really popular. This was like a really good card for a really long time. And if we go even all the way back here, Sprite's Blessing's actually not that bad. Neither is XYZ Reborn. But I was really looking for this. Like the Rescue Ace stuff, Infernoble. This is actually a good reprint. This is a randomly good card if you guys know what that does. Machine dupes in here. So good machine stuff, limited removal, hidden armory. For the Minkanko stuff is sold. Like the point that I'm trying to make is this. Rhoda's in here. That's pretty cool. Is that for $64, if this ever comes back in, you could potentially land one of the Pearly cards, right? Like, I mean, just look at how this has gone up over time. And I could very easily see this becoming $70 very soon. And like I said, we normally talk about just penny stocks, not really packs and different things like that. But you could get two relatively solid archetypes in Pearly and Rescue Ace from this box. Obviously, you're going to be missing some stuff. But you'll have some decent reprints as well. So just Amazing Defenders feels like a really good buy, to be honest. I actually probably will reiterate that too on the regular market watch if I'm able to get all the way back to where I was just at. I always do this. It's insane that some of the cards that are really at the tip end of $5, it's kind of insane to me. And yeah, so let's talk about this as well. I mean, Sword Soul, we know what Sword Soul looks like. I feel like this is kind of the first time, though, I've looked at Sword Soul since the Baron reprint. Still, though, it's interesting that the newer one is more expensive now. Or no, this is the newer one. Yeah, this is the newer one. I mean, there's a collector's rare as well. That's not what I wanted to do. No, yes, it is. I'm all over the place. I don't know what this is. So, Sword Soul is a deck that I talked about. Similar to Branded at a good amount. It hasn't really had the success that Branded has had, but it is a really nice archetype. It's a fun little archetype that can do a lot of very interesting things. Now, a lot of people know how to play around it. A lot of people know how to play through it. But if we look at this here, this is the full cord with the Tenny package, the Ecclesias. The Boxias, the Yazis. I don't know if it's even worth that. I don't know if it's even worth $100 though, to be honest. So this might just be something you try to get on TCG Player. Because if we go back over here to TCG Player, with Baron now at $50, right? That's our starting point. And then we look at just the Sword Soul stuff. Is Mo Yi really not a penny stock yet? That's kind of crazy. Yeah, Mo Yi is not a penny stock yet. Wow. So that's 22 for a playset of Mo Yi. Chichao, probably 4 for 2 Chichaos. You don't really need 3 of those. Because we're just looking like for the cheapest options available. The card that brought us here is Sword Soul Emergence. That's 9. So that's 4 plus 22 plus 9 is 35. The one of here is 36. Playset of Tai is 37. Playset of Long Young 40. Blackout. This one's pretty okay too. A lot of people have been moving towards the other level 10 as well. So that's like 42. There might be a cheaper version though. This is 42 and 10 cents. Okay, I thought there was a cheaper version for sure. So we're looking at like $42 plus the 50 for Baron. Plus $1 for Ultra Boxia and Common Yazi. So 43 plus the Baron is 93. I don't think you run any other Yang Zine cards. And then the final real package, because you could run sort of just like hand trap Sword Soul, where you just run a bunch of hand traps with the Sword Soul stuff. But I do think that the best version of Sword Soul still includes the tennies. When we look at the tennies, though, real quick, I'm trying to see if we can get the cheapest versions, because we're at like $93. If we're able to get everything at the cheapest amount possible. You don't really run the green, the wind, or the fire. Some people run one of these. They do run 3 of these, so that's 94. Not really. People don't usually run Shaman, but if they do run another Link, it's that one. So we'll just say 96. Vishuda's usually 1 or 2, so 9650. Ashina 9750, 98. We'll just say 98. This card obviously. Okay. Before we do that, 98. 100, 110. No, 102. So you're looking at about 102 for like a full Sword Soul deck. If we just throw in Berserker as well, because you need like, it wouldn't be terrible to have like a Crimson Blader, maybe Scrap Dragon. I'm trying to think of generic level 8 synchros that are still ran. Omega, different things like that. I haven't looked at a Sword Soul deck list in a while, and but because I can think of like the main group of synchro monsters, and then you can just kind of fill the deck out. And a lot of those synchro monsters aren't really super duper expensive. So you're looking at about 120 for a Sword Soul deck. That could still get you an invite. So I think that's why this is up here. Now, as far as, so I think it's a good buy. As far as like, should you pick up individual cards? I don't really see a circumstance where Sword Soul gets more expensive. I don't see a weird, like maybe if a new Synchro Monster comes out and Sword Soul can make it really, really well, like a new level 8 Synchro Monster comes out, that could help Sword Soul. But Sword Soul feels like a very decent rogue strategy at this point. So I just don't think that it can get enough support to make it top tier. I don't know if it ever really was top tier, but it could be a fun little rogue strat. It could be a fun strategy to have where like it can do a lot of really cool things. And who knows? Altergeist just got a whole bunch of support. Salamangreat's set to get some support soon too. In 3 to 5 years, the way Konami's been rolling, and I like that Konami's been doing this, they might give some support to Sword Soul that actually does make it really relevant in that time period. And then everybody will be looking back at these cards and going like, oh my gosh, they're super expensive. So I think it's a great buy. But let me know what you guys think. What are the best selling cards under $5 or less that you were looking at? Let me know in those comments down below. Make sure you guys click that like button, show your support for the channel, subscribe for more content. Most importantly of all, have a good day.